So now I'd like to welcome Jamila Rizvi. She's from Mamma Mia, and we're going to just having a little chat about women in marketing and media. So where this, I guess, idea of having this little chat came from was I was lucky enough to go to Cannes a couple of years ago, and one of the presenters was from Crispin Porter Bogowski. They're a really awesome creative agency. Many of you probably know them. And it was the, I think, head of strategy, a lady from strategy, presenting on a talk about how advertising and brands are reinforcing a stereotype of females that is very vanilla, plain, not really true to what most females are in this world. It's lots of, the deodorant commercials with the flowers and the perfect house and all that kind of pink and kind of girly stuff. It's just not true to most females in the world, and she was getting quite passionate about it. And it kind of made me think about it. I hadn't really thought about it before, as what can advertising do and what can we do as advertisers, marketers and brands to help, I guess, bust bad stereotypes and reposition things around equality and specifically around male gender inequality. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And there's a video I think that I personally saw recently that was quite changed my behaviour quite a lot. A lot of you might have seen it. It's had about 58 million views. It's called Like a Girl, done by a brand called Always. Do you want to play the video, Sam?
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm going to just give you some actions to do. And just do the first thing that comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl.
My hair. Oh my God.
Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl.
Aw.
My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing. It sounds like a bad thing. It sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
So when they're in that vulnerable time between 10 and 12, how do you think it affects them when somebody uses like a girl as an insult?
I think it definitely drops their self-confidence and really puts them down, because during that time they're already trying to figure themselves out, and when somebody says you hit like a girl, it's like, well, what does that mean? Because they think they're a strong person. It's kind of like telling them that they're weak and they're not as good as them.
And what advice do you have to young girls who are told they run like a girl, kick like a girl, hit like a girl, swing like a girl?
Keep doing it, because it's working. If somebody else says that running like a girl or kicking like a girl or shooting like a girl is something that you shouldn't be doing, that's their problem. Because if you're still scoring and you're still getting to the ball on time and you're still being first, you're doing it right. It doesn't matter what they say. I mean, yes, I kick like a girl and I swim like a girl and I walk like a girl and I wake up in the morning like a girl because I am a girl. And that is not something that I should be ashamed of. So I'm going to do it anyway. That's what they should do.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
Would you like a chance to redo it?
Yeah.
Why can't run like a girl also mean win the race?
Cool. So it's a pretty moving piece. I find it difficult not to tear up a little bit when I watch it. And obviously there's a brand behind that that's trying to get you to like them, which, you can have some cynicism about that. And also maybe it's been really well edited where they've got the best bits to put this little story together. But I still think there's something really true in it. And for me, it personally affected me because I used to say like a girl around the office or with mates or whatever. It's just a thing. My friends do it. Everyone, girls and guys say it. I don't know if it's an Australian colloquial thing, but as soon as after I saw that video, I was like, I'm not saying that ever again because it's really rude and it doesn't really help. So that's kind of why we're here today, to have a chat. Because I have no authority to talk on this topic because I'm a guy. So we've got Jamila in. Jamila's background started in policy and government around childcare, among other things. And now she's the editor-in-chief at Mamamia, which you will all probably be aware of, which has huge reach. So they're getting between 2 and 4 million visitors a month across their network. They've expanded the Mamamia network. It used to be Mamamia for babies, for women with babies, new kids, but now it's expanded to much more different categories for a whole range of life stages for females. And her most successful piece of work is the arrival of her new son, 8 weeks old today, her son Rafi? Yeah. Who is somewhere here today. So we're really grateful to have her along, considering she's just delivered a new little human into the world. Did you want to just give any background on yourself, like we said before, about the where you started?
Yeah, sure. So my background, as you just mentioned, is in politics, not in media. I worked for Kevin Rudd when he was Prime Minister. Take from that what you will. Then moved to work for Minister Kate Ellis in a range of policy areas, including women and childcare and a lot of women-related policy areas, and did some media work for her, and then realised journalists had more fun than media advisors and switched sides and moved over to Mamamia.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Great. So we'll open up to questions in a minute, but so start thinking about any questions you have about this topic or Mamamia more broadly or anything else. But first, I'd like to just hear what you where you look for inspiration. What sites, forums, communities, blogs, etc. around the world do you personally, and as all your writers and everything, look to?
I think while I've got some favourites, I'm like most media users now, which is that I rarely go to a web page and go to the homepage, and I've lost that sort of appointment. I read the New York Times every morning. It's more using social media to curate the kind of voices I want to hear from. So I tend to actually curate based on journalists rather than based on an actual publication. I find that more helpful. But in particular, I think some publications that are doing a great job for women internationally, The Atlantic's doing an amazing job with their long form work. New York Magazine, Salon, Cut are doing some great stuff. Closer to home, Us. A little bit biased there, but there are also some smaller blogs that are coming up that I think are doing some really empowering work around women in particular. Actress Caitlin Stacey, her work online's been great recently. Show and Tell, which is based out of Melbourne. So there's a whole bunch. I mean, the best thing about today's media environment is that you don't have to sit there going, I read The Age in the morning and that's what I do, and I watch the ABC News at 7 o'clock. You can get a whole range of different media every day.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about Mamamia. It's a bit polarising sometimes. If anyone saw a Hard Chat with Tom Gleeson and Mia recently, it was quite funny. But you do get different polarising views about some of the clickbaiting stuff you do versus some of the other content. So what's your view on that? Cause obviously a lot of that's driving your success as a network. You're growing very successfully. So what's your thoughts on that?
Look, we certainly are polarising, and I think we have the people who love us and the people who hate us and the people who are in between, and I think the vast majority are in between. One of the things I find so interesting about being a proudly feminist website is people then say to us, you can never, ever, ever criticise a woman, because if you're a feminist website or a feminist company, then you can never be critical of women, which is total bullshit. Being a feminist doesn't mean that I think everything every woman does ever is awesome. That's simply not the case. What we say when we say we're a feminist website is we're going to give a platform to a range of different opinions. And it's all right for women to disagree with each other. And just like that video just showed you, it doesn't have to mean it's a cat fight, doesn't mean it's a bitch fest. It just means women have opinions the same way everyone else does, and they're often not the same opinion. We provide a platform that means we often run lots of different sides of the debate and lots of different elements, and that can be confusing for people, I think, because sometimes the audience come to it and go, hey, you said the other thing last week.
Right,
But
yeah.
the difference is we had a different journalist saying the other thing last week. And I think that's really important, is giving people a chance to work out what their opinions are. And I think women more so than men, and of course this is a stereotype, but more so than men come to their opinions and come to their decisions about the world through talking and through communication. I think that's really why we're there, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, cool. Can you give examples of anything recently where those debates have happened and it's been worked really well? Or
Paid parental leave is probably a big one. I think we've probably run 30 pieces on paid parental leave on both parties' policies and the sort of change in policies of the current government, from a whole range of different women in different circumstances and women whose opinions differ. Mia's done a full 180, which I'm quite proud of, because she's gone from supporting Tony Abbott's previous policy to being anti it, and I'm holding myself responsible for that, talking her around after a lot of fights in the office. But I think what's important is that women are able to hear all these different perspectives, and that can help you make up your mind about what you think. I don't know about you, but I find reading a lot of content from people I agree with, while that's really nice because it validates your opinion, doesn't necessarily make me better. When I read opinions that I disagree with, that often strengthens my view. It will make me consider the other side, and it makes me a smarter person.
Yep. Yeah, cool. Anytime anyone has a question, just chuck up your hand and we'll come out, by the way. Something you actually shared with us recently was you did a fairly large study of your current user base, about 15,000 people, something
That's
like
right.
that. And there was some really interesting things inside that we were interested in. Is there anything out of that you'd like to share or think is a key insight?
Yeah, we recently embarked on a study of 15,000 readers. Actually, I think it was 14,500 readers and 500 non-readers, to give us a bit of a comparison. And one of the things, and they were across all our 4 websites, so Mamma Mia, which is our main brand, The Motherish, which is the mothering website, The Glow, which is health and beauty, and our new baby, Debrief Daily, which is for women over 40. And we looked at readers from across the websites, and there's a huge range of data that came through there that was fascinating. Particularly relevant for, I think, the audience today in terms of brands talking to women. One of the facts that I found fascinating was that we looked at whether or not women were more likely to respond to brands that had a prevention mindset or a promotion mindset. So if you were targeting someone based on a promotion mindset, sales, rewards, spend and saves, that kind of thing, or a prevention mindset where we're talking about quality, warranties, risk-free sort of thing, what would women respond to more? And we found that amongst our audience, it was almost exactly even. So half the women were responding to one and half the women were responding to the other. But we found that at age 40, or when the woman had children, she was most likely to switch from being promotion mindset to prevention mindset. So there's something for women about the time they have children or as they age that they suddenly respond in a very different way to brand messages, and that idea of quality, warranties, safety, not taking too many risks with brands really starts to shift at that age 40.
Cool. Maybe now talking a bit more to the topic we started the session off with around how brands are misrepresenting and reinforcing these stereotypes. Is there any brands out there at the moment that you've seen globally or locally that you kind of just make you cringe and wish they didn't do that? Yeah.
This makes me scared about who in the room represents which brands. Please, no offence intended here. One of the ones I think is doing a spectacularly bad job at the moment is Finish. The dishwashing powder. I don't know if any of you have seen the campaign they've run over the last year, but basically there's a woman who's standing at her dishwasher and she brings out a glass with, and it gleams out of the dishwasher because it's so clean, and she says something like, "This glass is so sparkly and clean, I'm going to tell all my friends about it." And you just sit there and you're like, thank fuck I'm not your friend. Like, if that is what you want to chat about at a dinner party.
Yeah.
Like, it is the most unrealistic portrayal of women. And I do think brands and advertisers often fall into this trap of thinking that women are in 2 categories, I find. And having just had a baby, I've apparently moved categories. So I've moved from the kind of girl who prances around in her very white underwear while she has her period, eating a lot of yogurt, with flowers coming out of her ears with pretty music, and who buys Kardashian-type products. I've switched from that to the Finnish dishwashing lady, because that's apparently the switch you make when you have a child. And now all I'm interested in is making my Dettol make the floors perfectly clean and refurbishing my house with, beautiful things that you would never actually have around a child in your life. So I think the media tends to do those two categories for women. You're young and you're hot and you eat yogurt, or you're old and you're interested in cleaning and wrinkle cream.
Yep.
And that's a little bit sad. I'd like to think we're slightly more multidimensional.
Yep, because you still love Kardashian, don't you?
Oh, and I still love yogurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? And what about in terms of the flip side? So looking at brands who maybe you think are doing something good, whether they know it or not. Like, is there anyone that you think you can, that do better?
Yeah, I think there's a few brands who are starting to see the benefit, I think, of using authenticity rather than using aspiration. For so long, when we've talked as brands, when we're talking to women, I think there's been this view, and it was very much pushed by the magazines in the 90s and the early noughties, of we'll be aspirational, we'll present a vision of what life could be to women, and women will go, yes, I want that, I want the beautiful clean dishes, I want the lovely house, I want my child's bum to be like a Labrador or something or other. Women aren't really into that. We can smell the bullshit. We're such a media-savvy population, men and women now, that sort of stuff just doesn't resonate anymore. So I think it's the brands that tick that authentic box. Kotex is starting to do some good things. Dove are fantastic from that sort of inspirational side while keeping the authenticity, starting to show some women who have a little bit of diversity. I don't know if anyone saw the Victoria's Secret campaign recently, which was, I think it was called The Perfect Body or the Victoria's Perfect Body or something like that. And they literally had 9 women who looked identical, had exactly the same skin tone, and they varied it by having one brunette. And they've made a mockery of across the internet. And the thing is, you look at that and you go, well, why do I want to buy that underwear? Because I'm sorry, I weigh double what she does and I'm half her height. So you're not making me want to buy that product. I want to see someone who looks like me because she's going to interest me in the product. And she looks like me and feels like me and acts like me, rather than this sort of stereotype of perfection, which just makes me feel crap about myself.
Yeah. In terms of what I guess some of these brands like Always and Dove, do you think they really have the right to play in that space? Can they go outside of just selling their soap and actually trying to make a change?
Look, I suppose you can be cynical and you can say how much are they trying to make a change and how much are they trying to sell soap. I like to think you can do both. And, you know, we work very closely with Dove, for example, because the brand aligns really well with what Mamma Mia is trying to do. And I find the people we're working with genuinely believe in that product and genuinely believe in the message that product's trying to send. And in the end, if you're working with brands, you're trying to sell stuff. Like, there's no point dressing it up. That's what you're trying to do. But if you can sell things by making women feel good about themselves, rather than selling things by making women feel bad and thinking they need to buy your product to fix what's so wrong with them, I think that's really exciting. And I think more brands should be trying to play in that space. Yeah,
and I guess the same question goes into media, because media publishers reinforce this at a massive level. I think there are still far too many publishers who are working hard at making women feel bad to try and buy the product. So if you think of the front page of any kind of women's magazine that you would grab off the shelves today, it would show you a bunch of pictures of women before and after type bodies, women who've lost weight in 8 weeks, and believe me, after having a child, and believe me, I do not look anything like those women. It takes a bit longer than that. And you look at those pictures and they make you feel bad about yourself. And then you see these cover lines with great promises, 15 ways to have a better orgasm, 12 shoes that will, I don't know, do something awesome. But all of it, inherent in all of those messages, is there's something wrong with your life now. Your orgasms currently aren't good enough. You are not having enough sex. You are not climbing the career ladder quickly enough. You are not getting married fast enough. You are doing all of this wrong. And if you buy our magazine and the products in our magazine, maybe, just maybe, you'll have a slightly better life, but not so good that you won't need to buy the magazine again next month. And I think all of those negative perceptions, negative messages, aren't necessarily working anymore, because women, we can smell the bullshit. We're not stupid. Do you think that's the case, though? Because they obviously work in some regard, because the brands like Dettol and whoever are doing those ads like that, and the publishers are doing the same thing. So it must be getting them to pick up the mag and buy it, Well, magazine publishing, not exactly the business you want to be in right now. Yeah, true. I guess that's where you're taking Mamma Mia with a different approach altogether.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we do is, for example, we don't hire photographers. Well, that's very sad for the photography industry. We do everything on our iPhones. So we'll do a filter to make ourselves look a bit better, but we aren't doing the airbrushing. We aren't doing that perfect image. We're showing ourselves as we are. We're not cropping and cutting. One of the experiences I had a couple of years ago, which gave me a huge shock, was I was writing for Cosmopolitan, who are an awesome mag, and I used to read heaps when I was a teenager. But I was writing for them. I went in to do my photo shoot, and I put on it, please no, don't edit the images. Don't edit the shape of my body. And I got an email from the photographer saying, "Are you sure?" And giving me the 2 sets of the photos, the airbrushed ones where I looked great, but I didn't look like me. I looked about 10 kilos thinner and a lot taller and a lot more tan, and the originals. And it was perfectly polite and kind, but the message was, "Are you sure that's what you want to put out there?" But I think when I think about young women reading what I'm saying to them, I don't want them to look at me and go, "Oh, she's so perfect, I'll never be like that." I'd rather they looked at me and went, "Oh, I like what she's writing. I'm interested in that," rather than feeling bad about themselves because of this perfect image, which isn't actually me anyway.
And you think some of those issues can, I feel, as you're saying all of this today, it's kind of like that applies to men as much as females as well, or at some level?
I think it applies to everyone who lives their life by comparison, and I think we all do that to some extent. But I do think the media and brands have a responsibility and have played a role historically, particularly in making women feel bad about themselves. And women are the main consumer and are the ones who are buying the majority of products and services. So, brands have had an interest previously in spelling out this idea of your life is deficient and buy this product and it will fix it.
Do you think there's anywhere you've done anything at Mamma Mia you've done wrong in this area, where in the past that you wouldn't do again, or things you try and avoid?
Yeah, I think we have. Like anyone, we've definitely had big wins, and then we've definitely made mistakes. One of the things I'm really happy with is that we've now changed the way we cover a red carpet, for example. We do red carpet stuff, but we don't do worst dressed. We only do best. It's sort of celebrate the good rather than pick on the bad. We always say to our readers, play the ball, not the man. So play the dress, not the girl. Don't say she looks fat, say that the dress is ugly, if you're going to be critical. There's no need to criticise the individual. You can criticise the fashion choice, and you can still be involved without being truly horrible. But I think it's easy to fall victim to that stuff because unfortunately we are so conditioned to click on it. We are so interested in clicking on weight loss or something horrible happening to someone, and that can be a really upsetting side of humanity to see where people click. We know what you click on, all of you telling me you don't like the Kardashians. Bullshit. We know exactly what you're clicking on, we know what you're interested in. For me, it's about taking the story that's in the news that day and saying, how do we do this in a way that's positive for women? How do we do this in a way that's smart and that looks at why we're interested in it and what's going on beneath, as opposed to just doing that surface, easy click stuff.
Yeah. Are there any questions out there? Yep, there's a few. One at the back, one over here. Yeah, Alex, do you want to go? Go first.
Me. I've got a couple of questions actually. It just occurred to me of all the platforms that you're on, which are the most? Where is your audience most active? That was the first one.
Maybe we'll hold that one and then we'll get back to the next question. Yeah.
So absolutely on mobile. I think it's close to 75% of our traffic comes through mobile devices, and while that's broadly applicable to the whole market of online women's publishers, we've been that way for a long time. We always found that our numbers that were coming on mobile were much higher, and I think one of the reasons for that is that often we forget how women use their mobile devices, and I think women and men use mobile devices very differently. I walk around with my mobile in my hand. Like, I don't actually put it in my handbag or in my pocket, ever. It's an extension of self. I'm never without it, which is a bit pathetic. Men tend to turn off, like they use it functionally, like they pick up the phone, use it, and then they put it away, whereas women are always connected. And that means when you're a brand and you're targeting women, you're not looking at just an on-the-go strategy. Women use their mobiles far more in the home than they do out and about. The smartphone is something you sit on the couch with. If you're me, you sit in the bath with it. You use it everywhere. It's not just a commute strategy when you're trying to target women.
Okay, I feel disconnected because I left my phone at home today. It's kind of nice though. So of the surveys that you did, you said 10,000 to 15,000. What were the key discoveries that you found, and what sort of changes are you going to implement following that survey that you did?
So the survey that we were actually speaking about was a survey around women and brands and how brands should communicate to women. So for us, it was about using that information to talk with our advertisers about how they can be more effective and how we can help them be more effective. One of the things we're engaging on next is a survey of our readership again, which we do at a large scale every 2 years. And it's so interesting. You get that broad response from the audience about, from the actual questions in the main part that are sort of tick the box or A and B, but I always find the most useful stuff's going through the comments and taking the time to run through all of the anecdotes. So once we do have that information, we'll definitely be presenting it to the market as well. But I think Fran, who is our sales manager at Mamma Mia, is somewhere here with my son, babysitting. But if anyone's interested in the deeper findings around that survey of 15,000, we have that broken down into category, brand specific, all that sort of thing, and can present it. It's about a 2-hour presentation.
Cool. There was a question at the back here.
Hi there.
Speak up a little bit.
Given that we're sitting in a room, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Given that we're sitting in a room full of brands and agencies, I have a question around prevention. Given that women hold only less than a quarter of creative roles in agencies, given that women hold under 13% of senior creative roles in agencies, given that brands have historically, to quote you, made women feel bad about themselves, quote unquote, to sell products, what can agencies do to address this, to address the quality of their creative and therefore impact attitudes and consumer behaviour?
Well, there's one simple way, and that's hire more women. I think the advertising industry has the same problem that most Australian industries do, but like media, like politics, like business, has it in a bigger way, and that is the promotion of women, particularly through middle management. And I think the movement of women through middle management around the mid-level of their career, because we often lose women when they're having children, means we don't get them to the very top. And I think brands suffer from that perspective by not having that representation of women in senior management roles, but also on boards in terms of the broader direction of companies. Women, I think it's now holds 13% of board positions in Australia. On advertising agency and media agency boards, it's more like 6%. So we're lagging behind an already very bad figure. And I think part of what all workplaces need to do, but particularly in advertising and media, is look at how we can make work more flexible to make sure that women can have that balance of work and caring roles, and that moving in and out of the workforce around children is easier. So that comes back to paid parental leave, it comes back to childcare, it comes back to a whole range of things that workplaces can do to make it easier to have a child and move in and out. And it's also, I think, about a cultural change that says men need to take a role in caring as well. Because we can talk about the lack of opportunities for women in the workforce. The other side of that coin is the lack of opportunities for men in the home. And until, for example, I'm going back to work in 4 weeks. I'm going back 4 days, and my husband's also going to do the same thing. But when I've said that to people, people think he is a champion. There's like this high five of, oh, dude, you're so amazing. You're going to spend a Friday at home with the baby. Like, I'm doing the same thing, but that's apparently not very impressive. He looked after the baby last week for one night, and it's called babysitting. It's not called babysitting, it's called parenting, because we're parents. And there's negatives for men associated with that as well. He found it much harder to convince his work to take time off to care for our newborn, whereas for me it was a given that I would be taking time off. So I think there's a cultural step that we all need to take as well that says children do best when they've got access to both their parents. Often those two parents are going to be a male and a female, and the man needs to take just as much of a role, and that will all have flow-through to effects to how women do in the workplace and in ad agencies.
Awesome. Any other questions out there? If not, I think we'll wrap up. All good? Great. Thanks a lot, Jamila.
Anytime.
It's really good.
What's this new audience we're trying to reach? Or is there a new automation system that we think is going to speed things along? Unless you kind of define what that innovation is, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually achieve what you're looking for.
The more we talk about ideas, the more feedback we can get on ideas, the more we can understand what needs to happen in order for me to make these ideas come to life.